Hello and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to WarrenThornton.com. Now, the first hour of the show tonight is free to air. After that, you'll need to come across to WarrenThornton.com. Just type in exactly that, all one word, WarrenThornton.com, click on the link, and that will bring you across to our Patreon page. Now, discourse is perfectly allowed, disagreement is perfectly allowed, and of course, it is the home of free speech when it comes to all the things that are going on. Now, tonight, we are going to be talking about Europe trying to get your children off to war. And we are going to be talking about the reasons for that. And then we are going to be giving you, on top of the reasons, full and definite proof of how many Ukrainian soldiers and Russian soldiers have died in this conflict. That's correct. We are going to give you the facts and the figures and our sources who are responsible for giving us that information you are going to share with it so that you know that the numbers we are giving you are correct, because there are many out there that are turning around and saying it is less than 1 million or just over 1 million. They are wrong. And we're going to show you tonight how wrong they are. And of course, we believe there's a good reason for that. So let's get into the fun and games then. And of course, we have to say, and the title of tonight's show, The Wolf is Loose, NATO wants to get hold of your children. There is a massive push from the UK and other countries to push this war, very much that they want to continue. And in fact, we've got some updates as well on, shall we say, the size of the Ukrainian army, which is going to be thrown out by the Russians. Almost everything that the Americans are going to be presenting in the document to Russia will be thrown out. We are predicting that right now because we know of at least two things that the Europeans and the Ukrainians have agreed on that the Russians will not agree on in a million years. Let's get into this then. So we'll start with this. This is Keir Starmer in the House of Commons. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Today, Mr. Speaker, I can announce that we're issuing a licence to transfer £2.5 billion from the sale of Chelsea Football Club. That's been frozen, those funds, since 2022. My message to Abramovich is this: the clock is ticking. Honour the commitment that you made and pay up now. And if you don't, we're prepared to go to court so every penny reaches those whose lives have been torn apart by Putin's illegal war.
So, first of all, it's not an illegal war. Secondly, when he's talking about Abramovich, I don't know what deal, and we don't know if there was a deal made with Abramovich. Nobody can point to it and say, yes, there was absolutely one made. And of course, they seized and forced Abramovich to sell that football club, Chelsea. Now they are saying 2.5 billion of that has to go to them. So they literally seized Chelsea Football Club and its assets. So in effect, they have stolen assets, obviously from an oligarch, but it is still Russian assets. They have stolen assets from them and are now demanding that money. And the reason I am giving you here, digging about, and we've said this over and over again on this channel, Europe is flat broke, stony busted, okay? They need to get the money from other people to continue this war. If they do not get it, they cannot continue this war. I cannot say this loud enough. The principal money that they were holding, they have already spent. They are saying they want to release it. The principal money they were holding that is not in Euroclear has already been spent. This is why they want the money, one, to pay for not for reparations, but to pay back the loan that they themselves, they have used this money to fund the Ukrainian war, the assets already that they've been using, and have borrowed against it. This is why they want these reparations and this money brought to them. Now, it is not just, shall we say, the nonsense that is coming out from Great Britain, although there is tons of it. Let's have a little listen to this. And of course, they will have to go through the court. Here's Keir Starmer one more time here. Let's have a listen.
This is the biggest moment for Europe for decades, at least, when it comes to conflict. The question then is, are you on the side of the Ukrainians or on the side of the Russians? And what we've got with Reform is a party that is pro-Putin or Putin neutral. Well, let's just test that, because the UK and France and now Germany are leading the coalition of the willing. That is about 35 countries that are there drawing up plans to help defend and secure the peace in Ukraine. There is no way on earth that the UK could be part of that configuration with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. Their ex-leader in Wales has just been convicted of pro-Russia bribes and got a 10.5-year sentence. That is a really serious sentence. And what does the leader of that party do? He doesn't want to investigate how that came about. There's a huge deal of concern about pro-Russian interference in our democracy, which is for real. You know, so there has to be an investigation. So when you ask me what's wrong with Reform, well, a pro-Russian party that couldn't play a meaningful part in NATO, that couldn't possibly secure the peace in Ukraine, would not be able to work with European partners because they wouldn't trust a party that is Putin positive.
So there we are. That is Keir Starmer turning around and saying Farage is pro-Putin. Complete nonsense. He is not pro-Putin whatsoever. Louis Bastos.
But Abramovich doesn't own Chelsea anymore. He sold it.
No, he's talking about Farage there.
Yeah, but if you want to take money from Chelsea,
yeah,
Chelsea club going down the drain.
Yeah, Todd Bowley and all the rest of them. I'm sure they won't be too happy about that. Here's the problem that we have. First of all, the absolute nonsense. You haven't managed to secure peace. In fact, you haven't spoken to the Russians once. So when Starmer talks about peace and everything else, these guys are pushing war like there's no tomorrow. And of course, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. Now, they are turning around and saying there are a lot of people that are for this war. Now, this is one of the narratives, speaking to our Whitehall source, is they have to change the narrative, because the actual truth, there was a poll the other day that said there was about 40% didn't know whether or not they should put more money into Ukraine. And of course, there was about 50% saying they don't know whether or not they should send soldiers. That is a complete falsehood and a lie. There are 62% of people do not want to give any more money to Ukraine, and 69% of people do not want people sent to Ukraine to fight as a British soldier. Let's have a little look at this. This is from Mike Fairclough. He turns around and says, how long? He said, the same clapping seals who banged pots and pans to save the NHS while the economy was torched and children were thrown under a bus, start banging them again for the conscripted. We must do absolutely everything to save lives, which will quietly mutate into let's send our young men to the front line, watch them come home in body bags and flirt with nuclear annihilation for the greater good. There's a reason critical thinking isn't a compulsory pillar of the school curriculum. And he is absolutely correct on that score. There is very much a push for this to be put forward and for this to be seen as, shall we say, everybody is on board. And this is a narrative they are going to push. Now, I'm going to show you a little something that the BBC and Sky have been doing. And of course, this is from Declassified, which are worth a look. They're normally pretty spot on. Sky's Deborah Haynes. She's just been praised by the head of the military for her excellent War Game podcast series. And after her reporting was exposed, and we've done that here as well, you remember the other day we showed you Deborah Haynes, she has blocked Declassified. Now, the BBC and Sky are going around blocking any accounts on social media that are to do with exposing and showing that no one wants to get together and go to war. The people who do, I'm going to show you an absolute lunatic. John Sweeney, War Diary, day 1391. We're going to put this up for you so that you can see it for yourself. This is the transcript of the speech from Blaise Metroelli, whose grandfather was a Nazi. Welcome inside the MI6 building. We're going to make it more acceptable for people. We're going to talk about human agency and under.
You've frozen, Warren.
In 1 minute, it should be back. Listen.
Not our internet that's gone down. It's going to be Warren's.
We'll come back.
Well, isn't that incredible? That suddenly disappeared, didn't it? Should we get back into that? Because, of course, they wouldn't want us to, you wouldn't want us to be completely out of that. Now, very simply, we don't know why that clicked off, but it did. And, of course, here we go. There's something distinctive that will make changes and everything else. Incredible promise, divorcing, increased weaponization, lots of bump. China will be a central part of the global transformation taking place. It's essential we as MI6 continue to inform the government's understanding of China's rise and the implications for national security. In other words, having a problem. I'm going to break with tradition and won't give you a global threat tour, but we'll focus here on Putin's Russia. We all continue to face the menace of an aggressive, expansionist and revisionist Russia seeking to subjugate Ukraine and harass NATO. I find it harrowing that hundreds of thousands of people have died, with the toll mounting every day because of Putin's historical distortions, they're not, and his compromised desire for respect. He's dragging out negotiations and shifting the cost of the war onto his own population. No, he isn't, and he has always told you exactly what is going on. Putin should be, and no doubt our support is enduring. The pressure we apply on Ukraine's behalf will be sustained because it's fundamental. Security, global stability, all the usual nonsense. Alongside the grinding war, Russia is testing us in the grey zone with tactics that are just below the threshold of war. Of course they are. What, like storming tankers? State-sponsored arson and sabotage, drones buzzing airports and bases, cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. None of this has actually been produced with any evidence. And, of course, the chaos. So how should we respond? It is not enough to just understand the world. We must shape it too. So that tells you everything. The European community and everything else. And she goes on to bang on about this. And, of course, the gentleman at the end, it's a huge, long speech. And, of course, the guy at the end, this idiot here, turns around and says, I agree with everything that she said. And this is a guy called John Sweeney. So you know that this narrative, this is her first ever interview, or the first time she's publicly spoke on political issues. Nilus.
Yeah, it looks like we've got our UK's Brian, van der Leyen and Callis all rolled into one.
Yes,
but
yeah, very much.
The population of Britain and Europe don't want to go to war, but this situation was just before the First World War and the Second World War. In the First World War, they used propaganda like the Germans was bayoneting babies and eating them. They used the suffragette women to shame the British male population into joining up, and the
Yeah.
sinking of the Lusitania, which they, which was a passenger ship but was full of weapons going to secretly being sent to Britain, which the Germans were told about deliberately, and and things like that, and
Okay.
the same with the Second World War. They needed the Pearl Harbor, which they knew
Yes.
was coming. They'd been warned about it,
Yeah.
and so we're going to see a series of stories, like full stories, like she's putting out there, but real
You
false
are.
flags.
You are absolutely right.
Like the Skripal case
Yes,
and other
very
things.
much.
Some of that.
Absolutely. Sean Murphy.
Well, Warren,
Yes.
I do believe, excuse me, I do believe that John Sweeney is the absolute scumbag hack that was exposed by Tommy Robinson, that was a total liar and was shown to be a total liar when he was involved, very much so, with Panorama.
Yes. Yes, he was. You're absolutely right. And when we talk about institutions lying to us, let's not forget Jeremy Bowen and his fantastic reporting, shall we? Let's hang on 2 seconds there. Let's just get this up with the share sound so you get the full benefit of this. This is Jeremy Bowen under fire.
Amount of incoming fire coming into this now. Artillery fire. There are loads of civilians around. Families coming out. There's a lady there with her dog. Following on. This is the edge of the town that the Russians have got.
There we go. Jeremy Bowen under fire, hiding behind a hill. And of course, while a lady is walking her dog, of course, everybody believes him 100%. And of course, we've got even more on this because, of course, there are more and more people coming out every day with utter nonsense. And this is what you are going to get. Have a look at this.
Attacking the UK is now the chances of Russia attacking the UK is considered by our analysts to be remote. That means less than 5%. But that is the same chance of Liverpool winning the Premier right now.
So there we go. The chances of Russia attacking the UK are the same as Liverpool winning the Premier League. This is what they are expecting you to believe. Let's have a little more. Let's have a bit of Starmer. Here we go.
But we know some basics. Putin's appetite for conflict and for chaos is already there, and it will only grow. And Russia is already menacing our skies, our waters, our streets.
So Putin is menacing Russian British streets, the skies, and the water. How many people have you seen menacing the streets, Lee Williams?
I would say it's called a corporation, which is UK, which is originally England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, as a guess. Nothing to do with the so-called Russia.
Yes, and of course, Sean Murphy.
I would say the only people menacing our streets are the people that he has allowed in to come across the channel, invade us in rubber dinghies, and is happy for them to be here. They're the ones who are menacing our streets and the UK and our water. They're not doing the air, and I don't think the Russians are either. The Russians are not interested in this country particularly. They got nothing to gain by taking it.
Not at all. No, they've got no interest whatsoever. And of course, as we said, the stories are going to pile up and they're going to be used. Here's the Germans. We'll come to Nillis in a second. Germany is warning of a direct threat after Russia deployed around 360,000 troops near NATO borders. Sorry, there was 482,000 troops near NATO borders anyway. A German defense lawmaker says 2 army corps are stationed in Belarus. Yeah, they are. They've been there for a long, long while, positioned to strike NATO countries. No, they're not. hundreds of thousands trained under a war-driven Russian economy. That's completely true. Forces not deployed against Ukraine held in reserve. That is completely true. Belarus used as a forward staging ground. Not true. Hopes Putin will come to his senses, dismissed as naive. Germany warns 2026, 2027 could be the most dangerous years. Well, we know that. Europe is sleepwalking while the threat builds up inside. Nilus.
Yeah, well, when the special military operation started, all we had from the British press was provoked. And it was the other way around. Yeah, Putin had been very patient. He'd gone through a 2 months peace process, which were he was betrayed in, and he was double crossed by both Britain, America, and the Europeans. And every terrorist attack that's been carried out in Russia since that time has had a British. If it hasn't had a British hand on it, it's had a British fingerprint, including the Crocus attack on the Crocus theatre, where many children were killed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're trying to produce. We're trying to. It's almost like the British, if they can't provoke the Russians to cause a similar terrorist attack in Britain, they're making.
Okay, yeah, good point. Well made. Workers' Party are one of the few that disagree with the drive, as it says, to war against Russia at fever pitch, and they are right about that. We reaffirm the following Worker Party statement. Keir Starmer is ready and willing to deploy British troops to Ukraine. The Workers' Party condemns British involvement in Ukraine and calls for no deployment of troops and a cessation of providing arms and a ludicrous pact to provide $3 billion a year for 100 years. While Britain's oligarchs seek to plunder Ukraine's wealth and exploit her domestic and foreign policy to their advantage, we affirm that the entire bloody debacle is contrary to the interests of British workers. Since 2014, 1 million Ukrainians have died. They're wrong on that. Due to the fascist putsch implemented by Victoria Nuland and the jackboots of the right sector and the Azov Battalion and a host of other deplorable stooges of NATO and EU imperialism. They are absolutely right there. All in the quest to destroy Russia and Ukraine's relationship and firmly secure Ukraine's agricultural and industrial wealth for monopoly corporations such as BlackRock. Correct. Our imperialist labouring government has been a key player in planning, perpetuating and continuing this disastrous war. They are correct on that. Many British workers have been propagandised by the media establishment into accepting this war on an entirely false premise that sought to paint Russia rather than NATO as the aggressors. This has laid the basis for Starmer to deploy British troops on the ground that would be a catastrophic act of war upon Russia. There are already 226 on the ground. Just as the Trump administration, in a moment of lucidity, is beginning the negotiation of a peace settlement. Britain has no business fighting a war to subjugate other nations to NATO, the EU, or Anglo-American imperialism. To deploy British workers to the end is both rational and rationally and morally meaningless and corrupting. British workers, however, do have the means to stop such war. This requires not mere individual acts of heroism, but decisive collective action. The establishment and corporations cannot wage their wars without the manpower and arms provided by workers. If the current government places the British people and the British military in a position of potential or actual participation in an armed conflict with Russia, the Workers' Party will do all in its power to assist in building a movement of mass non-cooperation with any such drive to an imperialist war. Industrial and military non-cooperation could end such madness in its tracks. Industrial workers could refuse to build arms, transport workers could refuse to load and ship arms, soldiers could reasonably refuse to fight in a war. I would doubt that very much. And that was driven by interests other than those of the British people and at their expense. That won't happen. If the army is to go to war, they will go. Such practical policies must be adopted and promoted by all sane people. Fully agree. Trade unions, political organisations and anti-war groups must adopt this line to prevent a conflict that may have apocalyptic consequences. Now, that is a statement from the Workers' Party of Great Britain, and quite rightly, I agree with most of it. I've got to say, most of it is spot on. Nilus.
Yeah, talking about soldiers refusing to fight. We know that in the First World War, many hundreds of soldiers were put up against the wall because they did that. Some were even reportedly crucified. So, are those rules still intact, or what would happen to a British soldier now who refused to go?
You'd be court-martialed and you go to jail. You'd be sent to the MCTC, which is the Military Corrective Training Centre. They have an A wing, they have a D wing. One is for carrying on with soldiers, and D wing is if you're discharged. In other words, they don't want you to carry on as a soldier. Otherwise, you go there for military punishment, and then, of course, you are sent back to your unit after you serve that sentence.
That was in the time of peace, but was that those rules? Or do they get even worse in the time of war?
Well, they can do. They can do, depending on what's happening. I mean, if you run away from the front line, it's not going to look too good. They're going to give you, shall we say, a lot of stick over that. So it's, you're going to get it in the neck, Nilus, when you get there.
Okay.
Remember, as part of my cover, I had to do 6 months there.
Yeah, I know. You remember you telling us, but I was just wondering if
that was in the bad old days when you had Nissan huts and stovepipes in the middle. But you had to do it because when they were sending you out to elsewhere, you had to have a good cover story for why you were, basically a deniable cover story for when they send you elsewhere. You will find there are many, many special operatives that have a military history record in Colchester, some who were there and some who weren't. But they will be listed as having been there, because when you get to sent to other countries, you've got plausible deniability.
All right, got you, Warren. Yeah.
Okay, because then if you're caught in another country doing some mucking about in another country, for them where you shouldn't be, they can deny that you ever that of course you were doing it off your own back. They don't believe it, but of course they can of course deny that. They can turn around and say it didn't happen. Let's have a little look at this. This is Kaya Kallis.
Thursday, the European Council is set to decide Ukraine's funding for 2026 to 2027. I want to make this very simple. Supporting Ukraine costs money, that is very clear. But letting Ukraine fall would cost us much more. Accountability for Russia's crimes is essential for a just and lasting peace. Tomorrow in The Hague, we will establish a commission to address claims for war damages caused by Russia. The Commission's register has already received 80,000 submissions. It will review, assess and determine the compensation owed to Ukraine. Russia will not escape the bill for the homes, schools and hospitals it has destroyed. And finally, on issue of territorial concessions, only Ukraine can decide the terms of any deal. But we all know that Donbas isn't Putin's endgame. If he gets it, he will want more.
So there we are. So that is Kaya Kallis coming out and saying about this. Now, once again, we're going to tell you where she was saying there, she was being absolutely accurate when she said about the problems that we will have if we do not continue to support Ukraine, because they are broke. Nilus.
Well, getting back to the two Minsk agreements, if Europe and America had kept those agreements rather than letting Ukraine break them and treat the Russian population, where they were the majority, like dirt, and filling their arsenals with weapons, then we wouldn't have to be paying for this war, which is bankrupting us. Instead of that, we'd be getting cheap energy. We'd be trading with the rest of the world, and we would be at peace. And the only disadvantage you can see is that the military-industrial complex wouldn't be getting so rich.
No, exactly that, and you're absolutely right. It's a good call. I'm just going to say this on the process of the chance of reparations is absolute zero, and I'll tell you for why. Here we are. This is Mariupol, which of course was devastated during the war a couple of years ago. This is Mariupol now, and the Russians building, and they have had help from the North Koreans, not just on the battlefield, but the North Koreans obviously putting up these. They can put these apartment blocks up unbelievably quickly and do so with great skill. And of course, everybody thinks they're still out in the rice field. Have a little look at this. This is another set of apartments that have been built. So as you can see, Russia is rebuilding those areas for those people. And just to give you a heads up, these are the very people that the Ukrainians are launching drones at. So let me just get this absolutely perfectly right for you. When Russia take over an area, they are then rebuilding it. The Ukrainians, who want war reparations for damages in their country, are then launching drones at these new buildings. You couldn't make it up. You really could not. Quite incredible. But we thought we would show you that so you would have some idea of what's going on. Nearly.
Yeah, and the Russians if people can prove that they've had properties that have been destroyed in this conflict, the Russians are giving them those properties for free. They can go and claim it if they can prove that they had a previous house. They can get a free house.
Yes,
whereas
absolutely right.
If you're a Ukrainian soldier and you're injured or killed on the battlefield, you got to pay to get transported out, and if you're killed, you got to pay for your own grave and your own grave space, or your family have.
Yeah, exactly that. It is quite staggering, and you're completely right on all of those points. Nilis is absolutely bang on. Lee Williams.
I was going to say, obviously, West didn't lie because there is North Koreans there in Ukraine, but they're not fighting. They're actually building property, which is for the Ukrainian people.
Yeah, they're not. All the money is disappearing instead of building, of course, these houses, which include these apartments, which, of course, include play parks and everything else. Whole areas are being redone. And, of course, this particular complex, they managed to put this up in 3 months. 3 months. When did we last do that in the UK, I would say? Putin has been very, very scathing. Oh, thank you very much, Nilis. Nilis saying you taught me. It was just a case of just reporting it. People told me I'm just the mouthpiece. Let's have a little look at this. This is Putin.
We want to bring you some breaking news now. In the last few minutes, Vladimir Putin has been speaking, and it's all to do with war readiness, essentially. Let me read out some of the lines that we're getting from this speech that we've been hearing. He's been saying there are calls in the West to prepare for a big war, and he's saying it's a degree of hysteria is increasing because of that. And we've heard in the last few days, really, from the head of MI6 about how that war front is everywhere in the UK in particular. Putin saying in the...
No, it is only in the war front. The war front is only there in particular because we're banging on about it. It is, it is complete nonsense to turn around and say that, of course, this is Putin is doing this. The only reason everybody is talking about war is because we are talking about it. That's it. End of story. Nobody else is, and they certainly have no plan to do so. And of course, they're doing their very best that they can to scupper the deal. And if they can do that, if they can scupper the deal, that is exactly what they are going to do. But the problem that we also have, and Putin has reiterated, if they really do want to have a war, then as far as the Russians are concerned, absolutely fine. And just remember that while this is going on, the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant has been attacked again by the Ukrainians. Yes, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, certainly inside of Ukraine and certainly in their general area, has been attacked once more by supposedly these people who are negotiating peace, would you believe? It is quite staggering, of course, that people will turn around and say that this is, of course, perfectly okay. And it's not. Simple as that. Let's get into somebody to pop their hand up there.
Only a quick one. I was just going to say, this so-called government, EU, NATO, are there anything to do with a description of terrorists, by any chance?
Well, let's put it this way. The very, very simple thing is now we have been, as I say, talking to our friends all day about this and saying, where are we going with this? So, first of all, let's tell you about a couple of things that the Germans and, of course, shall we say, Merz has decided that they are going to make. They are willing to give a concession over territory as long as Russia remove themselves from 2 of the other territories. Now, Russia have made it perfectly clear that is never going to happen. And this will absolutely blow your doors, or should do. Very, very simply, what they've turned around and said, it is very straightforward. Ukraine is expected to have a peacetime army of
You've broken up and frozen, Warren, again.
Are we back?
Yes, you're fine.
Hopefully we are back. I do apologise. We don't normally have this problem. Well, we have it now and again, but isn't it amazing that we have one tonight when we've got an exclusive? So let me just get back to that and tell you exactly what we were saying there. The Ukrainians are claiming an army, a peacetime army of 800,000 men. And indeed, they are going to negotiate to try and have a higher amount of men than that. So let's get into it very simply about there being a higher amount of men. Ukraine, when this war broke out, had a standing army of 82,000 soldiers. Okay, 82,000, not 800,000. And the Russians will dismiss this completely and utterly out of hand. Anybody turning around and saying that it's going to be all right, it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, and nobody is buying a bar of it. Okay, so we're just giving you that heads up straight away. Now, on top of that, we've got some other things that you are going to be staggered to learn. They are saying that they will withdraw from Zaporizhia and many other areas. And that is just not going to happen either, just to give you a big heads up on that one. And the other thing that is really, really a problem here, of course, is NATO people have been turning around and saying, of course, Putin is this, Putin is that, and they are pushing. They are pushing for people, literally for Finland. They want a country from Scandinavia, or they want an Eastern European country, such as Moldova or Estonia, to agree to send troops in en masse, and saying that they will back them up. And they won't be able to, because one, they haven't got any money to pursue this war, and two, of course, those weapons, building them, is going to take a long, long time. So they're trying to promote getting more troops from other countries, either a Scandinavian one, as we've told you on many occasions. A Scandinavian or Eastern European country will be thrown under the bus, and Germany, Britain, and America, and of course France, will not be committing massive amounts of troops in there. This is all a thing to build this up. And of course, we have also been told with our friend that a false flag of epic proportions is needed to swing public opinion. This is from I call him Gunter Flog. What you prefer, World War III or Europeans under slavery of Putin? I love the way he's worded that. World War III, 34%. Slavery under Putin's yoke, 66%. You said yes, please. So not that Putin would have them as slavery. And of course, he is trying to put a bent on that. But still, 66% would rather be slaves under Putin than have World War III. So he didn't get the answer that he was looking for. And of course, as I say, 2/3 of the people have turned around and said, get stuffed. And everybody can see the manipulation for what it is. I understand one or two people have dropped off because of the back and forth out of here. So I do apologise for that. And of course, Starmer is pushing this. He is, of course, asking the Defence Secretary to do a feasibility study. Now, we've got a feasibility study here to see how many people they could put in the field. Now, this is from our source in Whitehall, has said they will do a feasibility study to make certain that they can do what they're going to do. Now, there is a planned meeting, again, from our Whitehall source, once again, straight after the Americans have put forward their proposals, European proposals, to the Russians. And Marco Rubio is backing this. Just to let you know, Marco Rubio is in full favour of the new peace plan that is about to be submitted to the Russians. Now, we're being told that there are 22 points, not 20 points, 22 points in this peace plan, and that the Russians will literally, they will turn around and say it's open to discussion on about 4 or 5 of the topics. There are at least 12 of those topics that they will straight away turn around and say it is absolutely not happening at all. And of course, Lee Williams.
I was going to say it wouldn't come to the factor that, you know, we got these illegal immigrants in that will be representing the government to grab people from their homes because they've got to go to war. It can't be done like that, surely.
Well, it's, if they make it conscription, you've seen it happen in Ukraine. Could it happen on the streets of Great Britain? Who knows? There was a time when I'd say there's absolutely no chance. And of course, Russia has said they've no intention whatsoever. No intent. We are not planning to go to war against Europe. I have said it 100 times. But if Europe wants to wage a war against us and suddenly starts a war with us, we are ready. And that is from Vladimir Putin in a straightforward statement. And you should know by now that the Russians don't turn around and say something unless they mean it. So how ready are they? Well, this could be slightly troubling for anyone. Have a look at it.
Над этими комплексами. Мы их будем еще дорабатывать, усовершенствовать, улучшать, но они уже есть. До конца года на боевое дежурство будет поставлен и ракетный комплекс средней дальности с гиперзвуковой ракетой «Орешник». В прошлом ноябре впервые было проведено ее боевое применение.
So there are the Russians saying that Oreshnik is now in full production and is okay to be deployed on the battlefield. So that if that doesn't give you pause as the Europeans, the more they escalate, the more the Russians double down. So I would turn around and say it's got to be a real bad idea. But nobody thinks it's a bad idea. Have a listen to this. This is Julia Hartley-Brewer, who has to be the worst commentator on the Russia-Ukraine war. I agree with her on some subjects. She is so blind, it is unbelievable. And we're talking to, not only as the worst presenter on the Russia-Ukrainian war, she's also talking to the worst analyst on the Russia-Ukraine war I have seen. And he is up against some pretty stiff competition. Hamish de Breton.
What else are we supposed to be doing?
Well, I think there's a lot we can do, and they do talk about what's called a strategic reserve. There are about 1 million veterans like myself still in the country who could certainly be used and are very keen to get involved as well. And I think, you know, any citizen of this country who doesn't want to get involved and doesn't want to help out to provide national resilience should probably consider whether, you know, they should be here at all. But I think there are a lot of things.
Well, but there'll be lots of Brits whose families have been in this country for many, many centuries who will say, I've heard this from callers. I don't want to fight for this country. I don't believe in this country.
Well, then presumably they're quite happy that this country is run by somebody else. And I think the vast majority of us don't. And the realization from MI6 and from the military is that we are under severe threat from the Russians. And nobody thinks they're going to stop if they prevail in Ukraine. But the way to stop them is to show that we have a strong conventional deterrent so that Putin does blink and doesn't just think that we're weak and capitulate, which, unfortunately, as you suggest, some people in this country might prefer that.
But how much can we control this? Look, we don't have conscription. We've seen some civil conscription in France. We know in Finland, or actually lots of other countries around Europe are now moving to this way. Do we need to actually, actually have a, national service of some kind? We need to get our young people trained up, ready, so if and when they are called to arms, because a lot of people just say we're both warmongers.
Well, yeah, I quite agree. I think we need to have plans for it. We don't need it now. The strategic reserve, the veterans, they're all keen to get involved. Absolutely. We have to look at our European, people like the Finns and the Swedes, where they do, everybody is trained and they can put a lot of people on the ground, but they're a lot closer to the threat than we are. I think we just...
there we are. Hamish, Brett and Gordon, two things. Finns and the Swedes, as we told you, and of course turning around and saying that, of course, everybody, should we say, has got to be... how can I put this? If you're not ready to fight for the country, you should leave it. To Brett and Gordon, you get out there on the front line. You've been mouthing off for 3 years. You're keen to get involved. No, you're not. You're sitting in a studio in London. You are a coward and a liar. Nillis, then Sean Murphy.
Yeah, I used to love talk radio probably about 20, 25 years ago. You just had ordinary people phoning up and giving their views, and they were always varied views. But now you have all these people like the Brett Gordon coming on, all these talking heads. They're trying to propagandize the people, and there's very little ordinary people phoning up. And if they give a contrary view, they're just cut off immediately and called idiots.
Yes.
So it's hardly, I think probably Mike Graham was probably the last who just got rid of him. Yeah, he was a propagandist also, but at least he let ordinary people have their say.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's totally changed. They've become propaganda mouthpieces. They're just as bad as the newspapers now. And probably the only talk radio you get is what we're talking here talking to you in a limited thing, or people like George Galloway on Moats. People can ring up and vent their views, but you don't get it on the national airways anymore.
Yes, absolutely. There's no such thing as debate. It's a slanging match. Sean Murphy.
Well, what a load of old claptrap.
Wasn't it just?
He's got no idea what he's talking about.
No,
a million veterans who are ready to fight and want to fight. Yeah.
No, there's not. No, there's not. Not in a million. Not in a million years. Is there people ready to fight?
If there's a couple of hundred out of all the veterans in this country, if there's a couple of hundred, if there's that many even that want to do it, it's total rubbish. He has got absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
Yes.
Nobody I know. Do you want to go, Warren? You're a veteran.
I
don't want to go. I'm a veteran.
There is no chance.
Godfrey's a veteran.
Right. Let me answer the question.
Godfrey Blue's a veteran.
I am never going to fight for Nazis against Russia. It's not going to happen. And the regime that is in charge of Ukraine has the neo-Nazi ideology. Simple as that.
Yeah. Even old Godfrey there on that picture that's on the screen at the moment.
I'm going to play him in a minute.
He's not that stupid. He's quite a sensible chap.
He is. Alexander, did you want to say something?
I did. I was going to say, I know there's 240,000 squaddies, some of whom I know personally, who are staying here to fight these, shall we say, non-Bible readers.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. There we go. They're more likely to fight the immigrants than they are the Russians. So to Brett and Gordon, as I say, he's not only a liar, but he's been saying, I've been itching to get involved. Well, get over there then. Get on the front line. Don't talk about it.
They just say something on military experience. There is no possibility that Western Europe or the European Union could field an army even remotely capable of taking on the Russian Federation. Even remotely. Because soldiers, armies, have to have two things. They have to be well led and experience led, and we don't have anybody. The other side is it, as any soldier watching this, if you don't, or military historian, if you don't have combat experience, you are really behind the eight ball. Because now we have a situation with the Russian Federation who have 1.5 million men under arms or potential arms with their reserves, with an integrated system of drones, air warfare. We wouldn't last 5 minutes against the Russian Federation. Certainly not with the sort of people that we turn out in our armies today, or from the social background that we bring people in from the armies. You can't have a disciplined army without a disciplined society, and nobody in Europe has that. Who would want to be a soldier to go up against the Russian Federation? Most young men don't think there's any reason to do so, and they're right. So now have a look at a Chinese recruit or Russian recruitment advert, and you've got a really grizzly bugger here with a half-eaten baby in one hand and a Kalashnikov in the other hand, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm here to kill people on behalf of Russia," you know, and you go, "Whoa!" They're the kind of people they're recruiting.
There we go. So that tells you everything that you need to know. And we have, of course, before. I will send the account name to you, Mo. His name is Godfrey Bloom. Just look him up, and you'll be able to get all his bits and pieces. He is very good. We'd love to have him on the show if you're out there and listening, Godfrey. I've sent you a message. I've also sent messages to Hamish de Bretton Gordon to come on the channel to debate. But of course, he's not going to do so. Once again, hiding away from actual real talking. And of course, we have to talk about these things and everything they are up to, because everything that they are putting forward and everything that is coming out with this peace plan is going to be utter nonsense. Okay, it really is going to be utter nonsense. Now, we do have all sorts of crazy things, and there are people literally. This seems to be quite amusing, and it is amusing, I suppose, in a way. But this is how most people feel in the UK. Let's have a look at this.
Push it to the limit. Walk along the razor's edge. But don't look down, just keep your head or you can finish.
What part of London is this?
There we go. That's how most people feel at the moment. And of course, having been denigrated left, right and centre, of course, and been told that it's absolutely terrible and they're doing this and they're doing that. Of course, it's simply not true. And of course, many people are turning around and saying, no, thank you. We don't want to be part of anything that is going on with this. And that, of course, is going to be shown to be happening over and over and over. Have a little look at this. What the mainstream media in the UK won't show you is Russian POWs or Ukrainian deserters being thrown onto wasteland as practice for drone pilots in the Ukraine to get better at their skills blowing people up. Defenseless and just killed, butchered on the field. Nicholas.
Yeah, I remember stories of whole truckloads of Russian POWs being kneecapped, in the truck. Yes. And so they were useless for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
Absolutely that. And you're absolutely bang on. And of course, all we're going to get is more and more of this. We're not going to see anything different. And just to let you know as well, while there's loads of people, remember they had a vote, and we're going to show this again because I think it's very, very important. There is a neo-Nazi regime in charge of Ukraine. There was a vote. Now, obviously, the Russians have done this to get people to say no. Combating glorification of Nazism, neo-Nazism, and other practices that contribute to Nazism. Now, the Russians obviously making political capital about this, but by the same token, you would vote against it. Israel, of course, had no choice but to vote in favor of no Nazism. But who didn't? Albania, Andorra, Belgium, Bosnia, Bulgaria, Canada, who have many, shall we say, neo-Nazi groups inside there. Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Estonia, what a surprise, Finland, France, Georgia, Germany. Germany voted against the glorification of Nazism. They'd rather have it back. Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, Japan, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Monaco, where most of the rich Ukrainians are hanging out because they're not on the front line, Montenegro, the Netherlands, New Zealand, North Macedonia, Norway, Palau, Papua New Guinea have a problem with Nazism. They don't mind it. Poland, Portugal, the Republic of Korea, the Republic of Moldova, San Marino, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Ukraine, the United Kingdom, and the United States all voted against it. Those who abstained were the Bahamas, the Ivory Coast, the Dominican Republic, Fiji, Myanmar, Samoa, Switzerland, they've always been neutral, Tonga, Turkey, and Tuvalu. Nilus.
Well, looking at those results, it's almost like the whole of formerly Nazi-occupied Europe has voted for Nazism.
It is, isn't it? It is weird. And of course, when you look at the head of MI6, whose grandfather was actually a massive war criminal on behalf of the Nazis, then you look at Baerbock's grandfather, you look at many of these people and their grandparents and what they were supposed to do and what they got up to. This von der Leyen, Friedrich Merz, I mean, you name them, Nilus.
Yeah, I know in Greece there was mass starvation during the Germans because the Germans took all the food. In France, and after the war, all the collaborators were rounded up and the women had their heads shaved. Maybe they should shave the heads of Macron and Brigitte.
Wouldn't be a bad idea now, would it? To be honest, and I'm not being funny here, how bad it is getting is quite incredible. We are quite happy to go along with this sort of thing as long as somebody is fighting the Russians. Can you believe that? As long as we're fighting the Russians, it's fine. Somebody else got their hand up?
No, it was me again.
Yep.
I was going to say, it contrasts very much with the Russians because, if you're married in Russia, you don't throw your bouquet for one of your bridesmaids to catch that he's going to get married. You take that bouquet and you put it on the war memorial.
Yes.
For those who died in the Second World War.
Yeah, absolutely that. And of course, you're going to get more and more of this. This is not going to go away. How can I put this? It's genuinely not going to go away. This is going to get worse and worse and worse. We're going to see more and more of this happen, of course. And we're going to see, shall we say, more Ukrainians die. Let's get into this because I think this is important when we show how many Ukrainians are actually going to die because Minorad, they are saying, and the Russians are claiming that Minorad is now fully captured. There's just a few buildings left and that most have either surrendered or are dead. And we'll get into the losses because we have the exact figures for you very, very shortly. But of course, as I say, Minorad is now gone. Now, the whole area, including Pokrovsk, is home to around 250,000 people. We have some knowledge as well of an Australian mercenary soldier. Here's another one who has died in Pokrovsk. Of course, Tracker Merck have been very quick to put his picture up there and show everybody what he was responsible for and the stuff that and sort of stuff that he did. Now, this gentleman, as I say, is an Australian, not like Oliver Jenkins, who sort of gave it up. He died in Pokrovsk and he had only just finished serving in the Australian Army. So just to let you know that how can I put it? The blurring of the lines between them, of course, is still going on. Lee Williams.
Any connection to what we call the Commonwealth that's in with this as well?
Well, they're absolutely 100% in with it. You know, the New Zealanders are there. Many people are there. So we're going to see this more and more and more. This is not something that's going to go away. This is going to happen over and over and over again. Louis Bastos.
Like I said, this is going to be a 13-year war like Vietnam was to America. It's not going to end until Ukraine has disappeared.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Now, if you are a big fan of the show, come across to warrenthornton.com, because we are about to reveal to everybody the actual amount of dead, and we're also going to show proof. But for those of you who are not subscribers, do come across to just type in Warren Thornton, all one word, .com, and come and see us over on our channel and be first with the news.